Good morning, everybody. We'll just wait just a moment to get started. We're expecting some other friends today. All right, I'm just going to put up just an intro slide while we wait a minute for people to join us. Thank you so much for being here. All right. So, Ken, if you don't mind, I made you a co-host just in case you happen to see somebody that might need help unmuting or anything like that. And I am also going to have my colleague Meredith, who's just watching to help us take notes. Meredith, I also made you a co-host. So if you view the participants, you should be able to see a microphone next to their names, and that will enable you to mute and unmute as needed. So I think we will get started. Let me start my video. Great. Oops. All right, so I am going to, oh, there's Peter joining us. Great. All right. So I've gone ahead and muted everybody, and just for sound quality, and I'm going to ask you all in a moment to familiarize yourself with oh, good, more people joining us, wonderful, the raise hand feature. So you are here today to participate in a public facilities and public services and transportation focus group. And I expect that it'll last from 10 to 11:30, but we may end earlier. And we have just some meeting guidelines to kind of help this go smoothly. I'm going to ask you to please stay muted unless you are speaking, and please use the raise hand feature if you would like to answer a question, or just if you have any feedback. And then there's also a chat feature as well. So if you can't see any of those, there should be a control bar either on the top or bottom of your screen, and the three dots that say more, that is where you should be able to see the chat. If I don't see you raise your hand, you can also just kind of wave at the camera. And Ken, if you see anybody raising their hand and I don't, feel free to let me know. And same with Meredith. So does that sound good to everybody? A nod, yes? Wonderful. So we're going to be talking, as I mentioned, about transportation and public facilities and services in the town of Blandford today. So I'm going to start with some general questions and introductions. And then I will be turning it over to my friends from PVPC who will be asking questions relating to transportation, and not just in terms of cars, but other modes of transportation as well, walking, biking, and just generally getting around Blandford. And then we will move into a discussion about public facilities, including your infrastructure, buildings, et cetera, and the services provided to residents of Blandford. So, with that said, I know we have some colleagues from Hilltown CDC also on this call, and from someone from Walk Boston as well. So when we do introductions, I'll have you introduce yourselves. And I also just want to reassure you that if after the transportation questions are done, feel free to hop off the call. You're welcome to stay and listen to the discussion about public facilities and services as well, if it relates um, to your work, but you don't need to. I suspect the transportation portion of the meeting will take about 45 minutes. So with that said, I'm going to stop my screen share so I can see all of your wonderful faces. And welcome everybody. Wow, lots of people. This is great. All right. So I will start. My name is Alexis Lanzalotta. I am a consultant with Barrett Planning Group. We are working with Pioneer Valley Planning Commission in their work on the Blanford Resilient Master Plan. And we've asked you to come join us today to talk about these topics because we're trying to understand the vision of the community, goals as it relates to specific topics of the master plan, what people want to see in Blandford, what they don't want to see, and just to kind of learn more about these aspects of your community and your larger vision for the town. So with that said, I'm going to start by introducing our friends from PVPC. Ken, I will start with you.
Thanks, Alexis. Can everyone hear me? Okay. Yeah, this is I'm my first focus group that's actually in the office. So,
Oh,
um, I am Ken Comey. I'm a senior land use planner at PVPC, and also a co-project manager along with Catherine Ratte on this master plan. So I attended yesterday's session, which was on um, open space and cultural resources. And as you may be aware, there are multiple elements, and we have some focus groups later on this week, tomorrow as well. But with regards to this particular section, I'm looking forward to talking to the group here with regards to public facilities and services. I'd also like to take this opportunity to introduce Dunya Newf, who is a fellow that's virtually visiting from Agadir, Morocco. And she's an urban planner out there. A lot of her research is on green spaces and making them welcoming to the community. So I think that this is a good opportunity for her and for us at PVPC to do an exchange of information and understand planning practices out there. But I'm going to turn it over to the transportation team. Gary?
Thank you, Ken. Good morning, everybody. My name is Gary Rue. I'm a principal planner in the transportation section at PVPC. Happy to be here this morning and to hear your thoughts on transportation in town. I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Andrew McCall, because he is actually the project manager in the transportation chapter. Go ahead, Andy.
Hi, thanks, Gary. Hi, Andy McCall. I'm a senior transportation planner at PVPC. Like Gary said, I'm kind of heading up this chapter, and basically so far we've collected a lot of data from our resources at the state and in-house. And basically today we're hoping to kind of tie that to any kind of local knowledge and local concerns you have, and make sure we kind of mold a transportation section that's really kind of speaks to what you guys feel the current needs are, and where you want to go with this part of the process. Ken, you want to take it back?
I'm going to maybe let Alexis proceed.
Sure, sure. Thank you. So we also have from Hilltown CDC, Kate Bavlock. I hope I said your last name right.
Yes, that's right.
Great.
Yeah, so I am here today because we have a walkable Hilltown grant. It came out of the Healthy Aging, the statewide Healthy Aging Initiative. And we have some grant funds to provide support to 13 towns with their pedestrian access and safety concerns. With different things like Blanford just got a walking map. Some towns don't have them. We're able to give them walking maps with this grant. Walk audits is another option out of the grant. And my colleague Leanne from Walk Boston will talk a little bit more about that, or just general support. So we're here today because of the walkability issue. And because I don't live in Blandford, I'm sure I will do a lot more listening than any other input. Another hat I wear is senior transportation at Hilltown CDC. We operate an FRTA demand response program in 5 of the northern Hilltowns, and we have a supplemental program called Hilltown Driver Pool. I haven't done much work in the southern Hilltowns around senior transportation, but it's certainly something I'd love to participate in that discussion as well. And I assume, Alexis, we can pass it to Leanne now?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Thanks, Kate and Alexis. Hi, everybody. I'm Leanne Taylor. I am from Walk Boston. Despite our name, we're a statewide pedestrian advocacy organization. We work on directly with communities on working on walking, how to make communities more walkable, taking sort of that community education, built environment policy approach to our work. We've worked with the Hilltown CDC on a number of things. We've done a lot of work in Western Mass on rural walking. So this is kind of how we got synced up for this 5-year grant that Kate just described. The piece of that grant that we're going to really be helping out on is leading communities through the walk audit process. Our walk audits are really designed to kind of teach people about walking, give some tools for low-cost strategies to improve safety for rural walking, speed management ideas, and we do a lot of our work in partnership with MassDOT to try to affect some actual built environment change. So that's what we're going to be up to with Kate. I would love for anybody on this call to participate in any of the walk audits that feel pertinent to the work that you're doing. Those will be happening over the course of the next few years in the summertime when we have good walking weather. Specifically for Blanford, we're thinking about ways that a walk audit could support this plan. So if walking comes out as a priority for, maybe concerns about walking in the village center, kind of through the transportation lens, or recreational walking for the open space chapter, we're happy to plug in and use the walk audits as kind of a tool for community engagement and a tool for getting the resident voice directly into those chapters. So happy to be here as a resource. Kate and I have been talking about timing for that Blanford walk audit. So just, gonna mostly be listening, but just to put that out there. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. And now I just want to give an opportunity to the wonderful people of Blanford who have volunteered their time to talk to us about these topics today. And I'm just going to kind of go in order of where I see you on my screen. So I think I'll just ask you to introduce yourself, and just so for everyone on the call, just if you could just tell us what you do with regard to transportation or public facilities or public services, just for anyone who may not be familiar. And I think I'll start with Dave, because I see you first.
Good morning, Dave Hobson. I am the superintendent of schools for the 6 towns. So I do have some input, at least into public facilities across the district. I'm also a town moderator and a farmer here in town.
Awesome. That's great. You wear many hats, so it's wonderful to have you here through those various lenses. And I will move to Joanne. Joanne was on our focus group yesterday as well, so thank you for doing double duty here.
Hi, everyone. I'm Joanne Martin. I work for the town of Blandford. I am admin to the select board and the town administrator, and I also am on the recreation committee.
Wonderful. Thank you. And we have Chief Widehouse. Am I saying your last name correctly?
Hi, good morning, Tammy Weedus.
Weedus. Okay.
So close.
Sorry.
That's okay. So Chief in Blanford and Chester, newly appointed about a month, but happy to be here and be a part of this conversation.
Thank you so much. And congratulations. And we have, let's see, on my next row, Judith Mckinnon.
Hi, good morning. I'm the chairman of the Council on Aging in Blandford, and I'm very interested in this topic because we have had a car donated to us to help transport seniors to different appointments and doctors and grocery shopping. I also do a lot of walking in town. I can tell you about my experiences with that, but that would take a long time. So I'm very interested in this topic all the way around.
Excellent. Thank you so much for being here. And I will move on to Peter. Oh, let me, I'm sorry, Peter, can you I just asked you to unmute.
Yeah, I was trying to get my picture to look all right. I'm Peter Langmore, and I'm manager of the Blanford Municipal Light Board, responsible for putting the fiber into town, which is ongoing now.
Excellent. Thank you. And just a couple more people on this call to introduce David Hobson.
You already got me.
Oh, I did. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I apologize. I did. The other Dave, Dave Motter. Am I saying your last name correctly?
Yes, that's correct. Good morning, Dave Motter, Fire Chief and Emergency Management Director for the town of Blandford. I've been up here since July of last year.
Thank you so much, and I apologize for the two Daves. And we just have Mary, our chair of the Resilient Master Plan Committee, and who also was on the call yesterday. So thank you, Mary, for being here twice. If you just want to say hello to everybody.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I just wanted to say by way of introduction, I'm a user of the park, the library, fire, water, the transfer station, the town hall, and I serve as chair of the Board of Library Trustees here in town, and I'm also a state library commissioner overseeing access to the Commonwealth to library information. So that's me.
Thank you so much. It's I feel like I see a 16th screen here, but no name, and I don't see any other name here in my list. So if is there anyone that I have not introduced? No? Okay. All right, great. So on that note, I am actually going to pass it over to Andy from PVPC, who has some transportation related questions for you. And then Andy, if you have any, when you're done, I might jump in with some questions of my own as well.
Okay, thank you. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, so basically, like I said before, we've done basically a preliminary overview of what data sources we have and any deficiencies we've identified in your transportation network in town. So basically now we're trying to build up that and get some local knowledge. So the first thing I'd like to ask you about, actually this is more of a general question here. Where would you take a visitor to Blanford? How would this change if you could only take one leg of the trip by car? How would this change if the visitor was young or elderly, if they had mobility issues? So basically, general question with some specific ideas on are there known deficiencies and how would you achieve this goal? Go ahead.
Yeah, and just to add, so if, for those who were on the call yesterday, we had that kind of as a conceptual question because we were asking about cultural resources and open space resources. But looking at this through the lens of transportation and mobility and getting around town, we're just asking you to consider, you know, if you had a friend coming to Blandford and you wanted to show them around, you might have your top ideas of where you'd like to take them. Does that change at all if you can only take one? If you can only take a car to one part and then you're walking around, or if they couldn't get around due to mobility issues. So kind of thinking of it through that lens, if you couldn't use a car, because we had someone on the call yesterday who had this wonderful driving tour she described, but let's imagine you can't do that. So if you, you can either use the raise hand feature, or I believe I can see everybody, so you can also raise your hand. Are there any places in town that really are treasured, but you might, if you had someone who couldn't, if you, let me think of how to phrase this. So let's say if you had to park your car, where would be the first place that you would go? And then does that limit how easily you could walk around to other locations? And if we don't have answers, that's okay. I sent these questions in writing too, because I understand you might need to kind of think about them a little bit. So anyone who wants to give written responses is fine, but we can come back to that one too. Andy, if you want to move on to.
Sure. I mean, I would just say, you know, I obviously spend quite a bit of time in Blanford myself, and you know, we've done some of the Halloween events at the park and at the elementary school, and obviously, I don't think those two locations, or specifically the park, is necessarily, you know, conducive to, say, a mobility impaired person. You know, we've done the tailgate trick or treating and stuff there, and you know, so just, you know, me trying to help stimulate conversation here. There's definitely some improvements that could be done around the park to increase mobility. But for now, I'll jump ahead. What do you dislike about Blanford's transportation network? What are common complaints? And again, you know, we've identified, you know, a few locations that potentially have safety deficiencies. We've identified, you know, only small portions of your road network that has pedestrian or cycling amenities included in them so far. But again, this is all from data we have, or statewide data. So for those of you that, you know, try to walk in town or cycle in town, or you know, in your daily activities in the town center, you know, what are the things that you find that are very frustrating?
Or what do you hear as a common complaint? Because sometimes, you know, when we look at a community, what the data says, sometimes what you hear from people might be different. So common complaints about the transportation network. Oh, I see someone in the chat. Thank you, Joanne. And the chat is a great way to provide answers as well if you're feeling shy. Thank you, Joanne. Okay.
So,
oh, I'm
if I
sorry.
can,
Can I actually just pause? I saw a hand.
yeah, it's
David?
me, Dave.
Yeah, hi.
Yeah. So I think it's an interesting question, because for most of us who live in town, the biggest issue is how long it takes to get from here to any place that has a major store or facility. In terms of, as Andy pointed out, you know, there's very limited sidewalks in town. I do most of my walking on my farm or on South Street, which is adjacent to the farm. And again, that's fairly low traffic areas. I think we would have looked at a lot of walking around down at Niddles Conservation Area, but that's not, of course, handicapped accessible. And there used to be a number of people who would walk around Cobble Mountain Reservoir before it was closed off, so you can't get to it. And most of the Springfield Water Department watershed land has some excellent old trails that are now illegal to walk on because it's closed, which is a real drawback to the town when between the Springfield Water Department and others, that's like 60% of the town. So it takes off a large percentage of the town for our use for walking and or visiting.
Yes, and we definitely heard that yesterday as well, as Ken can attest to. So thank you for that. Mary mentioned in the chat that she would, with regards to if you could only do one leg by car, she would park at the post office and go from there. Okay, thank you, thank you. Let me unmute Judith. Hello.
I'm glad that Dave brought up the trying not to be negative. I don't know, as from a senior's point of view, if there is a lot of places for them to walk or a lot of accessibility. And I think that is a huge problem for many of the seniors up here. Even if they could park somewhere and walk, the walking would not be easy. And that limits, we had a walking club at one point, but it became difficult because again, they had to walk on a road and it was uneven and difficult. And so I think it is a huge issue for seniors in terms of getting out and about if they're limited.
Okay, so I guess building off that, let's look at the opposite side of it. Are there features with your, your infrastructure in town that you like and you would like to build off that? Is there a certain part of the network that you've identified as being maybe enjoyable to walk on, or is it, what features are there in town currently that you would like to try to mimic in more parts of the town?
Could I say something? This is Peter. In general, I think, these questions are directed at more of an urban area. This is a hill town, and by nature, there are not a lot of places to go, and there's not a lot of things one could do to make it that easy for, immobile people to get around. I had to take a call, but I think Dave was talking about Cobble Mountain. If that were open, that would be an incredible, because it's fairly flat up by the dam anyway. But if we could have that, but remember, this is a hill town, and there's some things, that's why we live here, and because of what it is. We can't change some things and probably shouldn't change some things.
Thank you, Peter.
But if I could, to build on what Andy said, there's a lot of our secondary roads that are pretty decent for cycling, except that unless you have a parking area someplace to drop, because it's very difficult to have to use Route 23 to get some of these places to the towns, which is, I've seen a lot of cyclists use Route 23, but it's certainly a much faster paced road. There's some sightline issues if you're on a bike and cars or trucks are coming. But if there is some way that we could connect some of those secondary roads for bicycling or even for walking, that might be helpful. So if we could have some parking areas in these locations where people could park and then get out and walk or cycle, that might be helpful. I don't know if that's what you're looking for, Andy.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. Thank you, Dave. Okay, so basically, in regards to storm resilience and resiliency overall, are there locations in town that you guys are aware of that routinely wash out during severe rain or in the spring when we have massive snow melt? Are there so localized flooding, icing events, things like that? I don't know how much of an issue it is, but when you drive on Russell Stage Road and in the winter time and you go under the I-90 bridges, oftentimes there's severe icing on the road because of all the de-icing they do on the interstate. but again, I don't know how much of an issue that is or a concern for residents in town. But are there other locations in town that, this has become a burden and something that needs to be addressed? Culverts that don't meet flow rates, anything like that, that we should be aware of to make sure we're addressing in this plan.
So Andy, I assume that you have access to all the deficiencies in transportation and roads and infrastructure, like the water department, that came out from the process that we did a couple of years ago at the Blanford ski area, where we got everybody together and looked at impacts of surges and things on roads. There were a number of places that had improper culverts, roads that flooded, issues with the Watson Park with the different potholes and things. But I know there was a lot of work done by that, and a lot of that was done by the, we had at that point, the highway department.
Thanks for that information. I'll definitely double check on that.
Well, you mentioned Russell Stage Road. Now, I'm not on the highway, but I do know that they have done extensive work on Russell Stage Road to alleviate that flooding problem. There was a huge meeting because we had to put fiber in there underneath there, and it was impacted by the wherever that water was coming from. But Mass DOT has done some work in there, as has our. I think you should get a hold of Rainey, our super maintenance super. What is he? Town garage guy, and he
Highway
could
superintendent.
Thank you, thank you, Joy. Highway superintendent, but I know there's a lot of work been done on there. But that was a huge problem. Icing.
Okay, thank you for that. I guess we keep plugging along here. So again, we identified a location on Otis Stage Road. Basically, if you're leaving the town center, you come by Highway Garage, down the hill, that first kind of sharp curve. We've identified that as a potential area to look at for high crash location, not necessarily meeting any kind of statewide number for crash rates, but we did identify 5 crashes there between 2015 and 2017. Other than the interstate, that was the only location that kind of jumped out to us in Blanford. Are there other locations in town that, because of high rates of speed or blind curves or geometric issues, that you are concerned with as residents, either while you're driving, while you're walking, or while you're on a bicycle or other mode of transportation? So just generally speaking, when we talk about geometry, Blanford has several roads, specifically off Route 23, that come off as either a curve or basically as a V. So depending on your approach, vehicles don't necessarily need to slow that much to make the turn onto side roads, down by down closer to Cobble Mountain there. Oftentimes these are viewed as dangerous intersections for cyclists because of the reason that cars don't need to shed as much speed to make those curves. Do you think that's an issue, or do you think that's a thing that you like about Blanford at this time?
Andy, I'm going to just chime in and kind of circle back to your previous question, because there's something in the chat that Mary asked. And she said, on 23 is the crash site at the intersection of Breach Hill.
So I have the location marked as basically right at the culvert over Tannery Brook. I'm not quite sure. Let's see. Beach Hill Road. No.
Andy, sorry, you were just muted for a leg of that.
So I don't believe it's at Beach Hill. It's at Tannery Brook, which I believe is still east of Beach Hill. Yeah, it's still east of Beach Hill. I'm not sure. So it's basically, like I said, you come down the hill going towards Otis, and then there's a kind of big sweeping left to right turn, and Tannery Brook's right there. So it was that curve on the downhill that was located or identified as the location of the crashes.
Thank you for answering that. Okay, so Joanne just added in the chat that she well, we have some additional comments in the chat. Joanne said that she drives down 23 every day through these areas and have not experienced any dangerous. Okay. Sorry, we're having mute woes. Mary, I'll answer your hand in just a moment. Chief Weta said North Blanford Road at 23 coming off North Blanford Road. It's very difficult to see down Route 23 for traffic. Okay, thank you. I'm gonna call on Mary, whose hand is raised.
Thank you. At Beach Hill, where it intersects with Route 23, there are several accidents there during the course of the year annually. Either from people coming out or people coming down the hill too fast. And there's a bit of a curve there as well.
Okay, I'll double check that information. Thank you for.
So you, excuse me, so you believe speed is a problem and that's contributing to safety at that location?
If you live here, you know how fast you can go. If you are not familiar with the road, and if traffic is ever diverted off the turnpike, they will send it down Route 23, actually in both directions sometimes. And those drivers don't know the roads and they can exceed the speed limit, I'm sure. And Route 23 is not an easy drive if you're not familiar with it. I'm sorry, I don't type well on a screen, so hence here I am. But thank you.
Thanks, Mary. No, typing or answering verbally, either, whatever works for you. We will save the chat, and we're also taking notes. So whatever means people prefer.
Okay, so moving on to more of this kind of non-motorized vehicle access in town. So obviously, you know, pedestrian safety and access and walkability of the town has been a concern of the committee. In our visioning session, there was mention about potential maybe enhancement of the town green area of town near the Historical Society building. You know, so I was just kind of looking at this area, and you have some Watson Park, you have the town offices, you have the town hall, you have the library, you have all these great features in town, you know, but the town green is kind of secluded. So is there interest in, you know, potentially creating, you know, through maybe with this, you know, Walk Boston, everything, a walking network that would include some sort of either, you know, level gravel trails or potentially future paved trails that, you know, create a walking trail through the town green by the Historical Society, tying into Watson Park, the town offices, and then enhancing the sidewalks in town and maybe even expanding sidewalks out, you know, through some of the neighborhoods to create like, you know, a Blanford, you know, walking trail system. And some of it would potentially be on sidewalks, some of it would potentially be on you know, most likely locally maintained, you know, walking paths.
So that's actually a great question, because in the chat earlier when Mary, I see your hand, and I was just going to mention what you had said earlier about parking at the post office and kind of walking around there. So this is like that exact kind of part of town would it benefit from having kind of more walkable infrastructure. So I think it makes sense to look there. So Mary, thoughts?
Thank you. Just bear in mind that the sidewalk we have is about maybe 3/4 of a mile, and that is maintained and it was installed by the state. It's part of Route 23. We don't have anything to do with that. But if we were to perhaps include sidewalk, say down Russell Road and around the corner onto Kalen Road and loop it back to the sidewalk on Route 23, that might be an improvement or a help, especially for senior citizens who need to be able to walk along even ground. So there's always that. And somebody mentioned going a great distance for supermarkets. And I think you have to remember it's a trade-off. If you're going to live in Blandford, you have to expect to make a 30-mile round trip to the grocery store or ballet or extracurricular sporting activities for the kids, music lessons, and so forth. So there's that too. Thank you.
Thanks, Mary. Yeah, that's a good point. And I think we've heard quite a bit of that, you know, the town, part of the unique, the wonderful aspects of Blandford that it sounds like residents really want to preserve. Yes, it comes with that trade-off of, no, there's not going to be a supermarket close by, but I think that is what people who move to Blandford are okay with that, because of the wonderful things you get in return.
Looks like
Peter.
Peter, yeah.
Yep, thank you. Hi, Peter, go ahead.
Okay. You know, I had a thought which hasn't been mentioned as far as I know, and that's the Blanford Fairgrounds. The flattest area in town, pretty much, at least up at the top here, are the Blanford Fairgrounds. It is a society, and it's pretty much closed. I don't know if one can walk in there. I know you can, but I don't think they let it. I think I'm pretty sure Dave is on the fair association. But what if the fairgrounds were open for walking? That's a wide open, flat area for the most part.
We had someone on our call yesterday who was affiliated with the fairgrounds. It's unfortunate that she's not on this call because we could ask her, Linda, I believe. Okay, thank you. That's a great suggestion.
And for bikes too. I mean, that'll be a good bike. There's used to be a racetrack around here, but it's not there anymore.
So kind of on the same subject is Massachusetts Department of Transportation has this what they call a Complete Streets program. And basically for a town to participate, they have to go through a few like a training and come up with basically a plan. And it allows them access, well, to compete for funding that specifically is for those types of elements, building, trails, improving sidewalks, expanding networks to fill in gaps in your sidewalk system or trail system. And currently Blanford does not participate in that. So I think that would be a valuable process for Blanford to start. And again, it's a competitive process, but typical grants range in the value of like $450,000, which would go a long way to completing some of these sidewalks improvements, specifically where they don't exist on the local jurisdiction roads. Obviously, Route 23, which would qualify, but the state already pays and maintains that, so it would probably be better to let them spend their own money on it. And Blanford could work on expanding the network outside of Route 23. Is Blanford aware of this program, and has it been discussed in town before? I'm gonna take that as a no. So I'll follow up with Josh on this. I know he has some knowledge of the program.
So I guess as a follow-up question, would anybody be opposed if the circulation/transportation chapter were to recommend participation in the Massachusetts Complete Streets program?
Mary is just asking for that to be repeated.
Oh, go ahead.
Yes. So I think if we could kind of explain a little bit, I guess what is the downside, if any, to, I mean, obviously it's a capacity issue applying for the grants and whatnot, but beyond that, Mary's just asking for repeating the program information. It's called Mass DOT Complete Streets is the name of the program, and Andy would know more about it than I just know that it is, it's I believe kind of work intensive to get.
So yeah, so there's a training. So obviously a town has to commit staff to go through a training. And I'll send a link to the resources on this. And once you go through the training, then you have to develop basically a plan. And again, there's resources to help the town with that. So there's really minimal amount of actual money that the town has to spend or to invest to get to be part of this program. And then once you have the plan, it basically has a like a ranking of priorities in town for improving these types of things, bicycle, pedestrian access, gaps in sidewalks, trail networks, and things like that. And so then each year you can apply for the grant, and it's a competitive grant. So I don't remember what the exact funding is for the entire state, but our region benefits from this program yearly for these types of projects. And Gary, am I missing anything on that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. He's like,
it's a three-step.
Okay.
This is really a three-step process. You mentioned the training. That is something that can be done online. It is required that somebody from the community participate in a training. But the first step would be to craft a complete streets policy that's adopted by the town. This is something that's scored, but PVPC has access to many policies, not only in communities in our region, but communities across the state. And what we've done in the past is we send sample policies over to the community that might make sense based on the character and size of your community. So in other words, another hill town that's adopted a policy, we would be looking at those, and we would be suggesting Blanford look at something similar that's been done in this area. But once your policy's done, now you're approved, now you're eligible to apply for funding to do the Complete Streets Prioritization Plan. That can be done by a consultant, and that's where you're identifying potential projects. You have to select a minimum amount, but you'd identify potential projects where you'd want to improve the ability for pedestrians and cyclists, and you'd actually have a cost estimate associated with it, and do a type of public participation and ranking system for that list of projects. And once that prioritization plan is approved, you're then eligible to apply for up to $400,000 in funding for a specific project. The negative, some might not consider this a negative, some might, but I think the negative piece of being part of this is you're essentially committing that you're not only going to be looking at doing complete streets improvements and making streets usable by all modes of transportation. You're committing to trying to incorporate the principles of complete streets in any project that you would do at the community. Now, is that enforced? In my experience, no. This is more of an incentivized program to get communities in Massachusetts to begin trying to incorporate all users and all modes of transportation in their improvement projects moving forward.
Thank you, Gary and Andy. Looks like Leanne has her hand up as well, I assume in relation to this topic. So I am going to Unmute Leanne.
I just wanted to add to what Andy and Gary were saying from the work with Hilltown CDC side. We are happy to, if the town does decide that thinking about complete streets is right for them, we're happy for any walk audit that we do to feed into movement towards that. So sometimes the walk audit process is a good thing to go through as a town, a group of residents or select board to come together to kind of see the types of things that would go into the complete streets prioritization plan. And if the town moves forward, the recommendations of the walk audit could easily be incorporated, just copy paste into the prioritization plan. Walk Boston helps with those, so we're familiar with how to write it up to fit into that. And so just wanted to tack on that whatever direction we decide to go with the walk audit, we're happy to make it through the lens of complete streets so that it can go to support that process.
Thank you, Leanne. It seems like it's actually almost perfect timing if the town did decide to kind of pursue, at least exploring, what pursuing complete streets would entail, that the walk audit is being explored right now as well. Mary, I'm going to unmute you now.
Thank you. Do we know what are the eligibility requirements? I see that there's an eligibility requirement for a town to participate in the Complete Streets program. Do we have to have a certain population or so many miles of accessible potential sidewalks or bike trails?
No, not at all, Mary. The eligibility requirements are the three-step process that I attempted to summarize earlier.
Thank you.
That's a great question. Thank you. So Andy, do you have any other questions before we pass along the baton to Ken with questions relating to facilities and services in town?
So I'll be brief, but just kind of three topics I wanted to touch on quickly. Our first, Blanford's technically a member of the Franklin County Transit Authority, which does provide some services to seniors and those people with other, disabilities. Are we aware of anybody in town that uses their service, or is it too restrictive? Or I just kind of I wanted some input from members of the town on the FRTA.
Judith?
It's kind of leads into the whole senior van service that you're trying to get going in town. So just trying to, is there a way that those can work together, or so go ahead anyways.
Okay. There's a long history with FERDA and Blanford, and it's not all been positive. At this point, we only know of 2 people who are using the FERDA van. And it's supposed to go downtown on 2 days a week, but it doesn't always, Tuesdays and Thursdays. So that was part of the reason why the Council on Aging was searching for a way to help seniors get transportation to do grocery shopping and so on. And we had a car donated to us by a wonderful person in town. And so we are now using that vehicle, and the transportation is increasing. So our work is increasing. We have volunteer drivers. Now several times a week, the van is in use. We're concerned because, of course, the car is not new. And we worry that at some point in time, we may need another vehicle. We'd certainly like to be able to have a driver, since we're all volunteers and taking a lot of our time, which we're happy to do. I'm not really sure. We hear that the FERDA driver in this area is trying to retire, and he's a very nice guy, but nobody has been willing to come forth and take his job, which I think is kind of too bad too. So that's where we are right now. And we have asked for donations for, that went out early on in the year, and we received 24 donations, many of them over $100, with notes that said that they really appreciated our service because they don't know if at some point they're going to need it. And I think that kind of says a lot. So that's what's happening with FERDA.
So is your service in town a free service or do you charge a
Yes.
fee? Oh, so it's totally free. Okay.
Free. Yep.
Okay, thank you for that information.
Yeah, thank you. Mary added information in the chat that FERDA is wheelchair usable while the van is not. So that is an important distinction. So if the donated vehicle were to break, like is there any funding or anything available for repairs? Any sort of, what would the plan be? Is it just usable as long as it is working, or? Yes, hi, sorry. There we go. Oh.
So the town is paying currently for gas to keep it going. We have received a small grant with help from the fire department that gives us money for repairs. And the other is the donations that people have been sending us. And that's what we are using to date.
Okay.
For money to keep it going.
That is really wonderful, actually, to to see something like that in a community. So the person who donated it, I'm just curious now. They did they come to you with the idea, or were you looking for? Did you like put out feelers for a vehicle, or did someone just approach the Council on Aging?
Well, it became apparent to us with our work with the seniors that we needed to do something about transportation. And so we did a whole survey. We had meetings and people came in and talked about their needs. And through that, this woman was on our board, and she came to the meetings and she was hearing from people about their need. In the meantime, she was having a struggle with her eyesight, and it was apparent that she was no longer going to be able to drive. And so she came forward with this absolutely wonderful donation. She's a wonderful woman.
Yeah,
so,
that's
yeah,
remarkable.
yeah.
Thank you. Andy, did you have anything else?
So just, I'll again be quick here. Just any comments on potential expanded east-west rail? If there was stops in Westfield or potentially Chester, would you think that would be a benefit for the town, and do you think the town would use it? And then secondly, and Dr. Hobson talked about this quickly, is what's the perception of cycling in Blanford? I see it as definitely a very thrilling ride with a lot of scenic beauty, but do you think you get a lot of cyclists that ride on your roads up there? So just
Is it okay if I share?
yes.
Oh, I have a note from my partner, Margaret, who wasn't able to be here today, and she's thinks that it would be a wonderful idea to be thinking about the East-West Rail project. And we've been reading a lot about it, and we think it could be of great value to the people in town. We certainly we would think that we would love to have something in Chester. I think that would be close enough for people to take advantage, and we might try to figure out a way to use our van to get, seniors that are mobile and interested in going to Boston or wherever to that area in Chester to take the rail and to pick them up afterward. We were talking about that just last week. So we are very interested in that.
You're muted now, Alexis.
Thanks. In trying to be so cautious about the muting, I'm inadvertently muting myself too much. So I will call on Mary.
Am I unmuted?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. As far as the East-West Rail, our legislator, our state rep, Smitty Pignatelli, refers to it as the West-East Rail. And Chester would be a great spot to have access. I know those of us who have to go to Boston, God willing, and COVID doesn't put this off forever, for a regular monthly meeting, that would really be wonderful. Just go down to Chester and jump on the train and get off at North Station maybe. Would be a big asset. It would also perhaps create more opportunities for working in other areas of the state for people who live here. And again, that's problematic because people are now working from home with the advent of the broadband in town coming soon. That that need may not be as critical as it was, but it's still, I think it's still a great idea.
Thank you, Mary. Okay. That's great. Anything else for you, Andy?
No, only unless the town feels or the committee feels I missed anything. That's all. But I'm good.
All right. Thanks so much, Andy and Gary.
Thank you.
So Ken is going to move into some questions specifically about other infrastructure, facilities, and also town services. So if I could turn it over to you, Ken, and feel free to hop
Sure.
around whatever. I know I had sent hop around the questions however you feel best.
Sure. Thanks, Alexis. And thanks, Andy and Gary. I know that there's going to be overlap in a lot of the conversations we're going to have over the next couple of days or tomorrow, and the conversation that we had yesterday with regards to what Dr. Hobson brought up with regards to the Springfield waterlands. That seems to be a major discussion point that will be captured in the master plan. But with regards to public facilities and services questions, and I sent this to the committee and we'll be posting it on the website shortly, is specific to the community survey that was just completed. And we had, I think, 170 responses. And
there is some, I won't call it dangerous risk, but there's some risks up here that have been identified, but no real plan to fix them or resiliency plan to avoid them in the future. So I think that part of this plan is going to be key from both police and fire, public safety in general moving forward.
Thanks, Dave, for that note. Yeah, that's very important. I think it was brought to attention yesterday by one of the members in that focus group with regards to, if some sort of natural disaster were to happen, what is the game plan for the town? And I mentioned to the town that to that focus group that every community has a hazard mitigation plan, and there are efforts to review that every 5 years. Mary, you're unmuted, so you should be able to speak.
Okay, thank you. Regarding what Chief Motor said about just thinking in terms of medical issues, there should be, or there may have already been specific training. There's a specific type of stroke that if you are a victim, the sooner you get to a medical facility, the better you are. And there's a certain medical procedure that you must follow. My nephew is a neurologist and educated us to this. And he said, if you have this kind of stroke, you're never going to survive. You can't get to even Noble in time. So we need to do something to maybe up the ante for medical assistance in dire emergencies. And should there be, skipping to another topic, some kind of a natural disaster, I have been speaking for several years about having the town participate in COSTEP so that our records are secure, our town records are secure. Now with the library, all of our collection is documented, not just in the library proper, but it's also online off-site. So I can tell you if, God forbid, it burns down or the tornado wipes it off the face of the map, we know exactly what's missing or what we've lost. And that kind of record retention is something that we need to incorporate into our future tasks about taking care of what we have to take care of in town for record keeping.
That's great, Mary. Yeah. In the meeting yesterday, Shannon Walsh, who is preparing our cultural resources section of the master plan, talked about COSTEP, and Mary's alluding to that, which is, you know, an understanding and future planning for these types of documents and records retention. So that definitely would fit in this with regards to town records and making sure that, you know, the town has a plan in place on how to maintain those. Okay.
Can I just jump in really
Sure.
quickly? So just so everyone knows, I won't be able to turn my video back on. My computer quit unexpectedly, so I hopped onto my colleagues and changed the name. So I'll still be able to help with hand raising and unmuting and things of that nature, but I will not be able to turn my video back on. Just an FYI. So sorry about
Okay. No worries. Thank you, Alexis.
that.
Okay, so you know, we've been having ongoing conversations with the committee. The visioning session brought some great ideas out. The community survey, as the town will continue to review that. Are there any facility and service goals or ideas that may have not come up yet in the conversation that Blandford should include in this master plan?
Am I still unmuted?
You are.
Okay. We finally achieved a solid financial footing. We have direction, we have compliance, and we need to be sure that that is maintained going forward. And that's a major, major, major accomplishment for us.
That's a great note, Mary. That did come up in the survey as well as at the community meeting in one of the breakout rooms. And you know, I think as Chief Motter said, with regards to the town administrator bringing this idea of a capital improvement plan, the master plan will feed into that conversation. So, you know, if there are some investments that the town should be making or identifying, you know, I think this is an opportunity to really identify those types of services that may need some additional investment over time. But you know, with the idea that the town has achieved this financial footing or is put in a better place, I think that it's a great moment. Looks like Joanne sent something in the chat. Positive improvements over the past few years. Yes, and I would agree too. Just in identifying some of the comments that were made in passing. Thank you, Joanne, for that. Anyone else? Okay. Let's see. Okay, this is a tough question because this always comes out when it comes to plans, and maybe it's, you know, this idea that, and I don't know if this is the case for Blandford, but as part of this plan, there will be implementable recommendations that are made that affect governance, town services, and facilities. And knowing that it's difficult sometimes to navigate the capacity of the town and its volunteers to accomplish those goals and strategies, what do you think is needed to move forward with decision making in trying to achieve those? Yeah, so it's a conversation about knowing your internal capacity and knowing the strengths of the people that you have serving on your committees, the people that are volunteering on this this master plan committee, as well as, you know, some of the town officials and town staff. Do you have any ideas to share with regards to ensuring that, you know, good governance is occurring, and you know, that you're maintaining and working towards implementing the master plan? Mary, your hand is up and you are unmuted.
Thank you. We still need to have better communication across all boards. We haven't had an all boards meeting probably due to COVID, but we really need to get all of our boards, commissions, committees together just for a, hey, this is what we're doing, this is what we're thinking, this is where we want to go. That kind of process. Communication is still lacking, and I think sometimes it may give the appearance of lack of transparency. That's not the case. It's just that our left hand needs to communicate with the right hand all the time. And again, it may be COVID induced, but it's not happening as it had been at one time. I think that's a big thing.
So Mary, on that note, you mentioned you think, COVID has kind of exacerbated that lack of communication. Had it been a previous practice to do this consistently, like at certain intervals? How did that work in terms of having meetings kind of across the board with committees and commissions and boards and whatnot?
At one time, we had what we called all boards meetings, where a representative, if not the chair, came from as many different areas in the town as could possibly participate. It was monthly and then quarterly, and then sometimes only for significant happenings like real budget crisis kind of a thing. But those all boards meetings really had a good spot for us all. And if you couldn't get the whole story, it gave you an opportunity to contact somebody after the meeting or later on to see what could you do or how you could maybe interlock. And I think that's missing. Communication is difficult at best.
So who kind of oversaw orchestrating that before?
The select board or the finance committee would say it's time for an all boards meeting, or somebody would suggest to the board, we need to have an all boards meeting, and it would happen.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful background. It looks like Joanne's hand you were waving your hand, right? Okay.
Unmute.
There you go. Oh, did I? Sorry, you're
Joanne. Let's unmute you, or I think.
Sorry, Joanne, you were unmuted.
All right.
There you go. You're good.
I just wanted to comment on what Mary just said. When I first started working about 3 years ago, that was the first thought I had in my head was, I think I'm in this department all by myself. None of the departments are working together, but I've seen great changes in that. And I think, Mary, exactly what you said, it's COVID that stopped it from moving along, because I saw a lot of progress and a lot of people reaching out and wanting to be a part of the whole picture instead of just one department. That was it. So we can work on that.
Good.
That's great. Yeah, that's important. The all boards meeting is an important tool for towns like yours to really, keep up with things that are happening in town. In my experience, we used all boards meetings for, budget crises, as well as when the town that I previously worked for revamped the entire zoning bylaw, and there were some new responsibilities from the various boards and commissions and staff within town government that needed to be aware of some of the changes. But it's an important tool, and I, that definitely will be explored and put into the plan. Let's see. If you could do one thing to improve Blandford's municipal facilities and infrastructure, what would it be? I think that could also include services. But if they're town government, what one thing, other than probably the most important thing that Mary had suggested, which is communication, what could you do? What could one do to improve that? Or, you know, if there's one aspect of that, what could you do?
Oh, boy.
Saying, oh boy. I know that it probably is difficult because, you know, you have town staff on this call and you have members of the community, especially when it comes to discussing town services in general.
Mhm.
You know, and I think offering the note that the community survey, you'll see from some of those responses, they were not as you know, the community survey didn't hold back. There were comments in there with regards to a lot of different services. Mary, let's unmute you.
Okay. We rely very heavily on Josh. The select board, correct me if I'm wrong, Joanne, the select board relies very, very heavily on Josh. And they keep, this is my perception, they keep throwing things at him. And he is so good about taking things on. I don't want him to get overloaded. That would be my personal observation and my concern for Josh and for the town. Because if you spread yourself too thin, something might, God forbid, fall through the cracks. We don't want that to happen. So Joanne may have something to say about that. Don't know.
Joanne, do you have anything to add? We'll ask you to unmute. Hold on.
Yes, I agree that Josh is totally overwhelmed, and what they need in that town is a chief financial officer. That's what they need. That's all I have to say about that.
Okay, good.
Thanks, Joanne.
Yeah, specifics like that, it's helpful to hear.
Exactly. Okay, so with regards to service delivery, you know, in that community survey, they listed a whole bunch of different services: fire, police, street plowing, maintenance, whatnot. Any comments with regards to the strengths of the services in town of the, and I know I have a couple, I know Mary, and I'm gonna speak for her, even though I'm sure she'll add to it, the strength of the library system and the library. But are there any other services in town that the town can celebrate the strength? Obviously, my follow-up is going to be, what are the weaknesses? So I don't know if anyone has anything to add. Let's start with Judy first, and then Mary. Hold on. Okay.
Is it working?
It's working.
Okay. I would just like to say that I think the fire department has, and the ambulance service is wonderful. And we've had to use it a few times and they've been terrific. We can't say enough. And they've also been helping out our seniors, which is a wonderful thing. So I would just like to applaud that. And I'm delighted that we have a new police chief. I know she's going to do a great job. And we look forward on the COA working with her too, in cases where it's necessary. So I think those are two really pluses. One of the things that's a problem, I think, and it's COVID related, but sort of, but maybe not, is that if people try to call the town hall for a problem and want answers to something to do with, say, the water department or the planning board or the whatever, it's hard to get a hold of people. And I've been in the building, even when it's not COVID related, where people will come in and ask to talk with somebody and they don't know who to talk to. So, a better communication, I think, with boards and things would be helpful, because even when you call the number, either you find out that the message thing is full, or, and again, Josh, or I think Joanne, end up solving the problem for these people or attempting to get them in touch with who they need to be in touch with. So I don't know. I know it's partially COVID related, but I think that could be better handled by the town.
Thanks, Judy. That's important. That goes back to the communication aspect and trying to understand where some of the disconnect is. But that's great. Great point. Mary, if you want to go next.
Okay. I think the transfer station is superlative. The only thing that really bothers me is I can't go dump pick anymore. But that's okay. The personnel are marvelous. They're very helpful. What I see with the fire department is the outstanding training effort that goes into what the personnel are able to do and accomplish. And now that we have a full-time police chief, there will be a greater police presence in town. She's 40 hours a week, splitting between Chester and Blandford, and sometimes she has said, depending on what the issues are, it'll be maybe more in Blandford or more in Chester. But I think that's going to be a terrific asset right there.
Great, thanks, Mary. Anything to add with regards to maybe places of improvement within the town services? Mary?
Oh, sorry. And then go to Chief Mater.
Okay.
Anything that really needs to be improved. I'll have to think on that one.
Okay.
We need to expand our library. We do such a terrific job serving the community, and we are in long range planning, get up right this minute of multiple phases, and we're now looking into fundraising to promote expansion of the library.
Great. Okay, Chief Mater.
Thanks, Ken. Thanks, everybody, for the kind words. As the new person, it's good to hear. The strength of this department can also be a weakness in that I'm the only member that's paid anything in the entire department. Everybody is purely volunteers. I did the numbers. I think it was over 762 hours of training and about an equal amount spent responding to calls. Blandford is, and luckily our surrounding neighbors are a rarity, because volunteerism in this country is dying. And when you look at the requirements to be a firefighter, even on a volunteer department, they don't change from career departments. So you don't have the people. I think right now my roster is up to 19. I've added hopefully soon to be 4 people since July. But the problem is a third of them don't live in Blandford. So like the boards and committees in town see, people aren't volunteering, and that's what Blandford's biggest success is, not just in the fire department, but all the boards that are volunteers. That's also going to be a weakness because people are not volunteering. So there needs to be a way to get town members to volunteer for the fire department, volunteer to serve on boards and committees. And I get it, everybody's schedules are full, but that strength is also a weakness. And I know Blandford is not alone in small towns in feeling that pinch.
All right. Thank you, Chief. So we have 4 minutes here. Let me see if, and again, I think as we're going to keep on harping, and maybe some of you will be on the calls tomorrow, there's going to be opportunity to respond to the document that Alexis provided this morning. So if you feel inclined, please fill that out. But maybe just to end our conversation today, before handing it off to Alexis for some closing remarks, I think if, let's see. This is a good one. And maybe, I don't know. Oh, Mary, why don't you go ahead?
Okay, what I was going to suggest under unmet needs,
Great.
we have a really good opportunity, I think, for leveraging a town swimming area with Springfield Water and Sewer Commission. I'm not quite sure how we could leverage that, but there's a great spot right off Route 23. Just cut a hole in the guardrail, put a road in, put some sand in for a beach. Would not have motorization of boats, no motorized boats or anything, but you could have a sailboat, you could row, you could swim. Since we no longer have what I would refer to as a real good access to Russell Pond any longer, I think that would go a long way to making a good thing for the town.
Thank
I'm
you,
done.
Mary.
So,
yes. So Alexis, why don't you close it out?
Sure. So in addition to just thanking you all for being here, I just want to repeat what Ken said about how I did send out the questions. Don't feel like you would need to respond to them all. If you if you open the document and you see even just one question that we didn't get to today that you wanted to give more thoughts on, please feel free. It is a PDF. If I can send a Word document as well if people can't edit the PDF. But we have 2 more focus groups tomorrow, one on housing and economic development and one on sustainability and climate change resilience. So if either of those topics interest you and you would like to join either of those meetings and you didn't receive an invite, please let me know. You can reply to the email I had sent this morning and I'll make sure to get you that information so that you have it and the questions for those as well. I've been trying to do it piecemeal just so that I'm not sending like a 30-page document of questions, but I can provide you with the housing and economic development questions, and the climate change questions are a work in progress, but I can send those as well when we have those all set. So just thank you very, very much. And if anything else comes up that you wish you had said or realized after, feel free to let Ken or me know.
Yes, thank you all.
Okay. So, was that a wave or a goodbye?
That was a wave.
Okay. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.